Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and I believe that all readers should read children's literature, especially adults. So that's what we do on the KidLit Love podcast. We celebrate all things children's literature, picture books, early readers, middle grade, and young adult novels too. Whether you're an adult reading to your inner child or connecting the young readers in your lives with fantastic books, you've come to the right place. Each week, we'll talk to a different children's literature author and discuss their books, their hopes and dreams for readers, their writing process, and much, much more. So, grab a notebook to build your TBR, and let's get to today's episode of KidLit Love. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the KidLit Love podcast. I'm Stephanie Affinito, your KidLit loving host, inviting you back to another bookish conversation with a children's literature author. Today, I'm talking with Vicky Fang. Vicky writes and illustrates books to encourage kids to be creative problem solvers, whether that be in STEM, at home, or with friends. She has 22 books under her belt, including the Layla and the Bots series, Invent a Friend, the Friend Bot series, the Best Buddy series, and the book she's here to discuss today, Book 1 and 2 from the Ava Lin series, a delightful series about a first grader who is good at making things and eating snacks, and my favorite, writing lists. I can't wait to talk about the books I wish I had when I was a little girl, so we are just going to get right to it. Vicky, welcome to KidLit Love. I'm so glad you're here today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Stephanie. I love your podcast, so I'm excited for our conversation.
Oh, well, thank you for those kind words. A pleasure is all mine. I said, in the introduction, this was a series that I wish I had when I was a little girl. I just fell in love with it. It's right at the top of my brand new favorite series for this group. So I'm so excited to talk with you about it, both the author and the illustrator as well, where I'm lucky to be able to pick both sides of your brain about the series today. But 22 books. I would love if you could start at the beginning and give us a little background of your journey to 22 books in children's literature.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so I used to be a product designer. I worked at Google designing products for kids and families. And so I was designing a lot of products to help kids learn about technology, learn about coding, get familiar with those things. And at the same time, I was having kids of my own. And I started reading with my kids, and I just fell in love with books and that experience of sitting down and reading with your kids. And I just wanted to make books. So I started doing it on the side. So I was working at Google on these products, and then I started writing books on the side. And so the first books that I wrote were really to encourage kids in STEM. So I wrote Layla and the Bots, which is a chapter book about a rock star and her band of robots, and they invent awesome things for people that they meet at their shows. I wrote Invent a Pet, which actually you called Invent a Friend in your intro by accident.
Oh no, I am sorry. I got
That's
all mixed
okay,
up with the friends in the titles.
I know. Well, I write about friends and robots. And so, maybe that should be the sequel. I'll have to set that up.
There you go. There you go.
um, Invent a Pet, which is about a girl who finds this machine in her living room and needs to figure out the formula for her perfect pet. And there's lots of fantastic animals in it. So those were kind of the first books that I wrote. And then I started, as my kids started school and started navigating friendships, I started writing about friendships because I could see sort of the struggles that they were encountering, and maybe it was my way of processing all my anxiety around trying to make friends. So I wrote Friend Bots, and that was the first book that I illustrated, thanks to my editor, who gave me the chance to do my illustration debut. And from there, the books have continued. I've been very lucky. My editors have been amazing. And yeah, I have 17 books out. I have another 7 under contract. So I'm hoping I can keep it going. You never know if that contract's the last one, but I keep trying.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm having a great time. So at some point, I had, I think, 7 books under contract. I left my job at Google because I just had too many things going on between the kids and the job and the books. So I took a 6-month leave. And then when it was time to go back, I just couldn't get myself to go back because I was doing too much with the kids and the books. So I became a full-time author illustrator. It took me a long time to let go of that designer side of me, but I feel like I channel a lot of that energy into my books. Like I think of my
Right.
books as products. And, I used to invent things at Google and I think of my stories as little inventions, they don't exist. And then I come up with an idea and I get to create this thing and share it with people. So I, I found ways to channel a lot of that energy into my books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what a beautiful philosophy to really look at it that way. It's taking that process that you loved and that creativeness. And you're right. You are creating new products. You're creating these books, you're creating these worlds, these
Yes.
opportunities for kids to dive into. And I love what you said about writing the books perhaps that you needed or were still working through, because that is my whole idea of this podcast is that yes, children's literature is for children, and we are here to connect little people with the books that they need. But we all have inner children that need these books just as much. And I feel like children's literature can just touch a part of our adult heart that
Oh,
we
totally.
cannot reach with adult literature. And sometimes we forget is even there. I really
Yeah.
feel like that's the power of books. And that's why I wish Ava Lin was here when I was a little kid, but she filled a place in my adult heart instead.
Oh, I know, it's true. Once I started getting into writing children's books and started reading really what's out there now, I was blown away because I think, you know, you don't really know how amazing the picture books and the chapter books that are being written now are. They're so thoughtful and so insightful. And yeah, I've fallen in love with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so many authors here on the podcast have credited their children for giving them the shove that they wanted and needed into the children's literature world. And it just seems like a natural fit when you have that inclination and you have that creativity and that love already. Our kids can be the people, the reason that we say, "Yeah, well, let's try it. Let's
It's
try it."
true.
And you tried it and then ended up now it's your whole world,
It
which is
is.
great.
And they keep me on point. A couple years ago, one of my kids was like, "You never write anything for fun anymore. You only write for work." And I was like, "You're right." And so then I wrote something for fun and I was like, "Yes, keep me honest on this."
Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh, kids are good at that. Keeping you
Yeah.
honest, not, abandoning their filters so you get their honest. Their
Oh, for
honest
sure. No filter whatsoever. Sometimes I wish there were a little more of a
uh-huh.
filter.
Yeah, my kids are older now. I've got a 20-year-old and two 17-year-olds. And yeah, that lack of filter was always very humbling growing up. But I'm sure they're proud and
Oh,
happy.
they are.
So many books with their mom's name on the cover.
Yes. And so when they say something is good, that they really mean it.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
You can trust them.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your new Ava Lin series. I would love to know where the inspiration behind this came. I can see, even though I made the mistake of invent a friend to invent a pet, I can see themes of pets in here. I can see friendships from your other series. It seems like the best of lots of your world. So I'd love for you to talk about the inspiration behind it and give listeners a little sneak peek into what the series is about.
Yeah, I love that you say that, the best of these worlds, because I really did feel like when I wrote Ava Lynn, it was kind of like a leap for me tying all of these things together in terms of, you know, myself as a writer and getting better at writing, myself as an illustrator and getting better at illustrating, and then all of the themes that I care about and that my kids care about. And so it really was something very special to me. And actually, I dedicated the second book to my agent because I feel like she helped me find all those pieces and put them all together. So thank you, Elizabeth Bennett. She's amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
I noticed that because I read everything when it comes to the
oh,
books,
well
and I
done.
thought that must be such a special relationship there, like to really show how special. I loved that. I thought, oh, so wonderful to see someone really making that connection with their agent, because I know it's a hard world from this podcast of
Ew.
how hard and how long it can be to get to where authors are today. So that was special.
Yeah. I mean, I completely lucked out with her, and she's very good at finding the things that I'm good at and pushing me just a little bit further in those things. And so Ava Lin was really, I wanted to write a book. It was at the time my kids were around the age that they would be reading these types of books. And I was looking at the books that they wanted to read that helped them fall in love with reading. And they loved funny books with illustrations. And I
Mhm.
thought, I have to write something for this age,
Yeah.
something that appeals to them, that gets kids excited about reading. And so that's what I set out to do. And so I read a lot of mentor texts. They loved Dory Phantasmagoria, which was a huge influence. And a bunch of different illustrated chapter books. And then I had to figure out what the heart was and what it was that I wanted to bring to the series. Um, so I knew that I wanted it to be a Chinese American girl, because I'm a Chinese American girl.
Mhm.
And then I was inspired for the humor a lot by my kids because they just did the most hilarious things all the time. So I pulled in a lot of their antics, sticking a rock in their ear, putting a crayon in the washing machine, all the ridiculous things that kids do that when you're a parent, and it's hilarious. Um, but the heart of it really, and I've sort of been discovering it as I'm writing it, right? I'm a pretty socially anxious person. I mess up socially all the time. I second guess things. I feel like I misstep. I put my foot in my mouth. Um, and my one of my sons is a complete optimist. And I don't know where he came from because I'm not an optimist. My husband's not an optimist. My older son is not an optimist, but my younger son is a huge optimist. And he just barrels into things with like full heart and full enthusiasm, and it'll blow up in his face and he'll be upset about it, but then, like, 5 minutes later, he'll bounce back and he'll have, like, a new idea and, like, a new spin on things, a new take, and I just felt like I wanted to bottle that and put it in a book because I feel like I've learned from him. It's not the end of the world if you make a mistake. It's not the end of the world if you say the wrong thing to someone. You can always, come back from that. You can always resolve it. You can always have that conversation, make things better, come up with a different idea about how to approach things. Um, and so that's really what I think the heart of the Ava Lin series is about. So Ava Lin is hugely optimistic, hugely enthusiastic, loves 8 bazillion things, bubble tea, treasure, animals, all the things that my kids are interested in. I basically threw in the books. All the things that I'm interested in, I threw into the books. Um, and she messes up all the time. And it's sort of hilarious because you understand why she messes up. It's very relatable, the things that she messes up. Um, but she bounces back and she figures it out and she just keeps going. And so that's really why I wrote the book, what I love about Ava Lin. And she's kind of become like a member of the family now. Like whenever someone does something kind of silly or misunderstands something in a funny way, my kids will say like, "Oh, that should go in an Ava Lin book." Like
Yeah.
that's Ava Lin, you know?
Can end up being like a family treasure map of what the family has gone through. That's awesome.
Yeah, and they do, they like finding the little Easter eggs of, like, the things that actually they did and the way I've woven them into the stories. Um, yeah, and some of it comes from my childhood, like, there's a scene where a boy puts soy sauce in her drink at a Chinese restaurant, and that happened to me as a kid, so it's like,
That was you.
that was me. So, weaving all of these funny things into the books.
Yeah. Yeah, and they are funny. You've mentioned a couple of them that just had me chuckling. First of all, Ava Lin and I share a love of pockets.
Oh, yes.
So if I can find a dress with pockets, I am a very, very happy person. And so Ava loves pockets too. She puts all sorts of things into her pockets. She's curious. And as you mentioned, some of those things perhaps end up in the washing machine, making mom less than happy when the black crayon gets in the washing machine. But I have to say, I think my favorite part, and I don't like to give spoilers, but I don't think this is really a spoiler, is, mom doesn't let her wear her dress with pockets after the crayon incident. And when she finds this beautiful thing, and I won't say what the thing is, perhaps that will be the thing that readers have to listen to. She puts it somewhere else, which causes an issue as well, and just made me laugh. Like this book, these books are books that really are laughed out loud, funny, and relatable, whether you are Ava Lynn's age or you are an adult. This is true entertainment that is going to keep kids turning the pages. I just loved the things that she got herself into, or just I could imagine the sparkle chicken, on the television, and really just had a laugh out loud good time with
Oh,
with this fun, delightful little girl.
awesome. Thank you.
But beyond that, it is very funny. As you said, there is heart here. There are themes of, book one is Ava Lynn, best friend. And who can't relate to wanting to go start a new year and find your best friend, right? Just
Yeah.
I remember it like it was yesterday, thinking the same thing, scanning the room. Who's it going to be? Who will I connect with? I can remember doing it again in middle school, thinking, oh my gosh, who is it going to be? It's just such a universal um thing, that
Yeah.
everyone thinks about. So that friendship theme is really clear in book one. And book two, which we can talk about as well, because that's the one that is most recently
Yeah.
published, Ava Lynn, one of a kind. And there's lots of themes of kindness and what it
Mhm.
means to be a friend, both on the outside and the inside. So I was just so impressed with how much fun I was having, while at the same time you really are tackling some deeper themes that are going to just kind of soak into kids when they read this too.
Oh, thank you. So I can tell you the backstory that inspired book two. It's a little bit of a
Please do.
so my when my son was in either kindergarten or first grade, they had kindness tickets. And so Evelyn book two is about kindness tickets. She's trying to collect these kindness tickets to get a prize at school. So to get a kindness ticket, you do something kind for somebody and they put a ticket in your kindness bucket. So my kid, it was the school night. I went to his class and he showed me the kindness buckets. And his best friend had his kindness bucket was overflowing with tickets, so many tickets. And my kid had like 3 tickets. And I was like, "Okay." But he showed me this and he didn't say anything, and I didn't wanna say anything. I didn't want. So
Right.
I just let it go. But of course, as a mom, I was like, "Why doesn't my kid have any
Yeah.
kindness tickets? What's going on?"
I'd have been
And
thinking the same thing.
I held it in for about 2 weeks, and then there was one day when I was like, how come you don't have any kindness tickets? And your best friend has so many kindness tickets. And he goes, oh, you want to know why he has so many kindness tickets? And I go, yeah, how'd he get so many? And why don't you have any? And he goes, because he steals them from the other cups.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. And I felt like I learned a lesson at that point. Like I got caught up in these tickets and these kindness buckets. And that's not really the point, right? It's not about the tickets. It's about actually being kind to people. And so that's the theme behind book two. So Ava doesn't steal kindness tickets, but she does definitely misstep several times
Yes.
um, until she sort of realizes, like, oh, what am I doing? You know, how do I really show kindness to my friends? And so, yeah, similar to book one, she's trying to navigate friendship, trying to navigate social situations, and trying to connect with the people around her and messing up when she does it, but recovering.
Which is what we all do, right? It is so relatable. And while we are talking about, a first grader who is trying to fill her kindness bucket, there are a lot of adults kind of doing the same thing on social media or in our world where those
Oh yeah.
outer things are rewarded. And sometimes you don't know that inner picture or that inner bucket. And so I felt like, again, it has connectability to young readers, but as an adult reader, I was thinking a lot of those same things in a different way. And the thing that really struck me, and again, I'm not going to give a spoiler, but I think this is kind of I don't want to say a well-known thing about kindness, but what's really clear in the story that kind of pierced my heart was that when you feel good, you do good. And when you do good, you feel good. And that was such a beautiful gift towards the end of the book that she figured out. And I'm not going to say what happened, but oh my gosh, the ending. You know,
Oh.
the true friendship, the gesture. I would like to think that 6-year-old Stephanie would have done the same thing, but I don't know. I was pretty impressed with Ava. I can't tell you listeners, but it's a beautiful ending and you just have to read it yourself.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad it resonated. It's always so nerve-wracking to put a new book out because you don't know if people are gonna get what you're trying to do. So it means a lot to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm happy to be able to share that with you. So I do have a couple of other little things I'd love to ask you because I'm so lucky that I get to talk to you both as the author but also the illustrator. And throughout the book there are there are illustrations throughout, I
Mhm.
don't want to say every page, but I would say pretty close that really do enhance the text, whether it is a picture of those lists that she loves to make, if it's a picture of what her teacher looks like, or her expressions of what she's going through, the things that she's finding. I'd love to know about your process as both the author and the illustrator of how you go about bringing it to life. Is it idea and concepts and the pictures come? Does inspiration strike in an image in your mind and you go from there? Like, how does that all jumble together in your head?
Yeah, so because I started as author only first, I used to always start with the words and then I would come to the pictures. But what I found now is that I get stuck unless I start drawing pictures. So usually I have an idea, and this is what happened for Ava Lin. I knew that I wanted to create this book, but I wasn't sure, like I needed to visualize it. And this is always what happens now. I need to be able to visualize the book. And so I start doing sketches, just exploratory sketches of like, what could the character look like? Can I achieve the storytelling that I want to achieve through my illustrations? And so for Ava Lin, and I'm constantly learning as an illustrator because this wasn't my first uh foray, I knew that I needed her to be very expressive, and that was kind of the biggest thing because she's so over the top and dramatic and things are amazing or they're terrible, and I needed to be able to get that emotion across. And so that was kind of what I started with in the sketches, was trying to figure out if I could get those emotions across. um And once I felt like I had a strong enough concept, then I moved into the book. And then I drafted the entire book um, without illustrations. I just had like a concept sketch,
Mhm.
drafted the entire book. And then to go out on submission to editors, I did an illustration, like a dummy of the first chapter. And the way that I've had to do that is, so I draw now in Procreate. That's not how I started, but that's how I do it now because I love being able to draw on my iPad and take it wherever I go. Um, but to do the layouts, because it's so integrated of text and image, I have to do it in InDesign, which I hadn't touched in like 20 years, but I pulled it out and remembered enough to at least get a rough layout done. So now what I do is I'll when I'm putting together a dummy, I'll do the text in InDesign and then I'll pull the images in and then I'll revise in InDesign. So I'll like be editing my illustrations in Procreate, pull them into InDesign and be able to see the layout there. Once I get into working with an editor, the art director is the one who does all of the layouts in InDesign. And so she just kind of gives me the layouts and I draw in the spaces that she's left for me. And sometimes I'll move text around. I'll just like cut and paste it somewhere else if I feel like it's in the way, and go back and forth that way. And I think that as I learn more, both about the writing and the illustration, I'm able to push back in different ways because I know how it works. So I can say like, oh, this needs to move over here, or like, I was just thinking about this with the cover design, when I designed the covers for Ava Lin, we really focused on the front cover. And then when that was done, we thought about the spine and the back cover. But now for my next series, I'm like, oh, okay, now that I have thought about this more, I can think about, the whole thing at the same time now, so it's like any part of the craft where you start to learn more and you become more flexible because you know all the pieces that are at your disposal.
Yeah. Yeah, as you just keep going and going in that process, it gets easier, it gets more refined, it doesn't phase you to jockey around that many platforms and modalities anymore because it does sound a little confusing in my head, but
Yeah, sorry. But so it's also, I mean, that's when I said too, like all of the pieces came together for Ava Lin. That's what I felt like too. It felt like because I'd written, X number of books, I was able to think about, plot and character and humor and arc at the same time while I was writing it, instead of having to do it like one piece and then go back and revise the plot and go back and think about the character. Like it just became more fluid because my brain was faster and could process and juggle more of those pieces at the same time.
yeah. And it feels like too, as your, family is collecting Ava Linisms or whatever you want to call them for the book, you're going deeper in that process, but it's like you're getting to know Ava Lin more and more and more, as you said, a member of the family. So I imagine that just helps to fuel all of that kind of rolled together.
Yeah, it's true. And it's frustrating to me too, because like I said, like I'm starting to understand the heart of the books better now that I've been living with them and writing them. And I wish I had, that more clearly in my head before I launched a year ago.
Right.
But it's good we're talking now because now it's clearer in my head.
Hindsight is 2020 always, right? Well, I do want to say a little element that I loved as a reader too. And I don't know why I always love this so much. I love the illustrations. They match so perfectly. And I really can see the emotion on her face, whether it's disappointment when her lucky bean sprout breaks, or it's a grumpy face when, she's angry. Those emotions come through. But what I also love, and I don't know if it's a foreshadowing thing or if I just love every little bit of books, but around your chapter headings, you have little images, little icons that in some cases foreshadow what's to come. And I just so enjoy that piece. It just like gets me ready.
Oh,
It jumps me in. I used to work with kids who had difficulty reading or were reluctant readers. And those little things that give them that excitement or that boost or that reassurance of, oh, if that's there, then I think I know what's coming. I feel like it just adds to the enjoyment and the accessibility of the book. And so I just wanted to say, I love that that is included in how you chose to lay out the book.
yeah, I will definitely credit my art director for that one. She was the one who suggested it and maybe pushed it a bit because, as an illustrator, I'm looking at like, I have to do 96 pages of illustrations and you want to now do chapter headers as well.
I'm so glad she pushed though.
I know, me too. And in general, I feel like that, yeah, uh, also in the cover design, just thinking about all the details, I appreciate it because I do think it can be overwhelming when you're looking at illustrating an entire book. So it's great to have someone else there saying like, you should also do this, or, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have one last question for you that I have been dying to ask because in the series, and it's actually in the first book, Ava Lin, Best Friend, um, she has what I am very obsessed with in my own life, and I hoard them and I stack them all over the place, and that is my notebook and my journals and my diaries and whatever anybody wants to call them. I have a lot of them and I love them all, and I'm very particular about my notebooks and those covers. And so in the story, she's personalizing her cover with stickers and things she finds that she shoves into those pockets for a while and puts them on the cover and sparkly things. It just made my journaling heart very, very happy. And so I wanted to ask you, do you have a journal where you capture ideas? Is this just an Ava Lynn thing? Like, I would love to know that little personal tidbit about you if I could ask.
Who doesn't love a journal?
I
Notebook
know
is
it's
amazing. I have many journals. This is probably my problem, is that I start them and then, well, I misplace them. So I just have like journals all over the house. And when I need to write something down, I just grab the closest one and I put it in. So now I've started having to like put little tabs on them, and it looks really obsessive. But I put these little like color tabs so I can
Oh, it doesn't
remember.
look obsessive. It looks awesome.
I can't remember what's in every book. I'm like, what is in here? Um, so I do that. I have tons of notebooks, but also my optimistic kid loves notebooks, and he is the same as me, maybe. He just likes starting them. I
Yeah,
mean, that's always the best part. You're like,
it
fresh new
is.
notebook, all this
Mhm.
potential. And then he kind of abandons them, an eighth of the way through and then wants a new one.
Yeah,
um,
I can relate.
his, his obsessions with notebooks was part of it. And of course, my art director was the one who suggested that the books look like a notebook because of her
That
obsession
spiral
with
edge is wonderful.
them. um, but yeah, I love a good notebook.
Do you have a certain favorite? Like, are you particular like I am? I love all sorts of notebooks, but if I could only live with one notebook for the rest of my life, it would be the Moleskine
Oh yeah.
Cat Ear A5, me the band and a ribbon and a really good mechanical pencil. Yes, 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 yes.
And oh look, there's Ava Lin in here.
Oh my gosh. Oh, listeners, I wish you could see. We just got a peek into her notebook and we saw Ava Lynn.
Yes, I love the Moleskines. They're probably my favorite. I keep trying different ones, but I keep coming back to them.
Me too.
Um, yeah, they're amazing.
They are. They are. And I know we kind of joked that it was a problem of how many we had, but I am 100% certain that it's only a problem if we think it is. And I don't think it is.
It's true. And there's something about creating on paper that is so different than creating on a computer. And it allows your brain to like make different connections and think in different ways. So yeah, I love working in notebooks.
Yeah. I mean, 20 something books and a couple more counting. Those notebooks are they're saving some really great ideas for you. So have
Are
as
they
many
saving their
as you
keep?
need, Vicky.
Thank you for justifying my notebook habit.
That's right. I am happy to do that for anyone listening as well. Oh, well, this has been such a joy to get to know you better, to get to know Ava Lynn better. Where can listeners find you online if they want to keep connected with you, keep up to date on the books coming out?
Yeah, so my website is www.vickyfang.com, Vickyfang. And you can connect to all of my things from there. So I am on Instagram as Fang Miss Books. And then I do have a KidLit craft blog that I run with my critique partner, Christine Evans, and that is called the KidLit Survival Guide. So you can look for that. It's on Substack. I do have also a monthly newsletter for my book news and activities, and I do a giveaway of books every month, either of my books or of books that I've run across that I really enjoy. Um, I think those are the main places you can find me.
Okay. And I do want to tell listeners, you're listening to children's literature because you likely love children's literature, or you're connecting others with children's literature, or you want to write children's literature. And Vicky, you have a beautiful section of your website for people who want to write. It was a wonderful rabbit hole that I went down for quite some time. So I want to make sure I point that out for listeners who are listening. And I want to leave them with one last little sneak peek, which is book 3
Yes,
coming. So I'd love for you to give us a little sneak peek of that before we sign off today.
absolutely. So book 3 is Ava Lin Super Duper Happy. And
Love the title. Love it.
and in book 3, she is trying to form a connection with her grandmother. And so she's very excited about her grandmother coming to visit. There's the school walkathon. She's trying to, I'm trying to separate the books out. Yeah, so she's trying to connect with her grandmother, but her grandmother comes and doesn't seem to really understand her. She thinks all her treasures are garbage, like the half marker that she found on the playground. And her grandmother doesn't really like animals. And so Ava is trying to figure out how she's going to connect with her grandmother. They and one piece that plays a strong role in this book, and I won't tell you how it comes about, but there is a mood ring involved because one of my kids, the very first present that he ever bought for me with his own money, his allowance money, was a mood ring. And
Oh, so
it's
sweet.
so sweet. And mood rings are so cool. So
I still have mine from when I was a kid. It's in my jewelry box right now.
amazing. I will say, don't wear it in the bathtub because that will mess it up a little bit. But yes, so it's another fun and funny book of her trying to connect, trying to form connections, messing up, having a hard time. And it comes out in June.
Wonderful. Well, it sounds just as delightful as book 1 and 2, and I
Thank
can't
you.
wait so that I can keep Ava Lin close to my inner child heart for a little bit longer. So I'm so glad to know that there is more.
Thank you so much. I'm excited for it.
Well, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast today. I loved getting to know you and Ava Lin, and I'm just excited to see what else comes next for you. Always an open door here. When new books come out, I'd love to invite you back to chat about them.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie. This was such a delight.
Thank you. And listeners, thank you for listening to another episode of KidLit Love, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the KidLit Love podcast. You'll find links to all the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes at alitlife.com. And if you want more, you might like to listen to my other podcast called Get Literate. It's a podcast that explores all things books and reading, notebooks and writing, and everything in between to build a life you love. One more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a bookish friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish community of KidLit Love. Thanks for listening.